Hello everyone, Ember Power here. This is the third time trying to record this, but today we're going to be looking at some Chilling Reign decks, Shadow Rider and CALYREX VMAX from the next set, June. So the next set in June will be coming out approximately June the 19th, I do believe, which is in approximately 3 weeks' time. So I figured it'd be a good time to just go over these guys and share with you some lists that I thought were pretty interesting and share my opinions on them, basically. And hopefully these lists can form the basis of your decks that you go on to build. So Shadow and Ice Rider CALYREX, some things to note is that they are more of partners than direct attackers. The Shadow Rider more so of a partner than the Ice Rider. Ice Rider can definitely hold on its own because of its low maintenance attack cost, but the Shadow Rider is also extremely potent in the late game, so that is worth noting. So just if anyone wants a refresh on what these guys do, Shadow Rider has the ability Hellgate. Says once during your turn, you may attach a Psychic Energy card from your hand to one of your benched Psychic Pokemon, then draw 2 cards. So why this ability is so good is because it's just easy acceleration in Psychic decks that's really been lacking ever since Malamar left the format, basically. So as we'll be about to see in a minute or two, this with Mewtwo is obviously devastating because Mewtwo has always wanted that energy acceleration, and it's often had to rely on other forms such as Welder. But now it has a direct psychic acceleration, meaning you can run cards like Travenor again and Gengar and Mimikyu. So we'll get onto that in a minute. But Hellgate, definitely really strong ability. Max Geist for 3 colors energy does 10 damage and then 30 more for each psychic energy attached to all your Pokemon in play. So really strong attack. It's just not very good in the early game when you only have 3, 4, 5 energy in play. And then obviously it starts to snowball, ironically enough, in the late game. Sorry, that was a terrible pun. But yeah, Max Geist, great in the late game. Not so good in the early game, but certainly a great support Pokemon. The fact that you have 320 HP also means you can stack these in play without the fear of your opponent just bossing, KOing them, and disrupting your attack line, because unless they're playing Eternatus, these guys have 320 HP and resistance to fighting, so it's going to take a lot to bring down the Shadow Riders. So the Ice Rider has a weakness to metal, which on the surface sounds awful against Zacian, but these lists do play Path to the Peak, a lot of them do, which shuts off Intrepid Sword, which is a big feature in Zacian's essential strategy to set up metal energies really quickly. So it has 2 attacks with great versatility. Emperor's Ride, very reminiscent of Empoleon's attacks, that does 10 damage and then 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So really easy damage to rack up, especially against decks like Eternatus. Yeah, not a lot of love for Eternatus in this set, as well as other decks like Pikarom that may want to overstuff their bench with Dedenne and Crobats. Very good attack. It's also 2 colors energy. So in theory, you could put this in your Victini Welder deck and then have access to hit other Victinis for weakness. You could put this in, I don't know, for argument's sake, a Rillaboom deck, so you can hit for weakness on Victinis. You know, there's just a lot of different options you can use, so great versatility in its 2 attacks. Max Lance does 10 damage, and then you can discard up to 2 energy and do 120 more. So you can do 250 tops or 130. So very nice, easy setting up Emperor's Ride. So you probably want to go in there with Emperor's Ride first with the 2 water energy, do a bunch of damage, and then finish them off with Max Lance. And that's sort of how it plays out. Also worth noting, both of them have retreat cost of 2, so Air Balloon is really good for this deck. So Shadow Rider, the first one we're going to have a look at is a God of War one, which I find very interesting. God of War, for those who don't know, has a very similar ability to Intrepid Sword, except it's a look at the top 2 cards of your deck rather than top 3, and it is any energy cards. So God of War can essentially just attach some sponge psychic energy to CALYREX, and God of War does more damage for each psychic energy attached to CALYREX himself or herself. So really easy to use attack, and this deck also makes use of the Cresselia that can search your deck for Psychic Energy and build them up as well. We obviously see a high count of Psychic Energy, 4 copies of the new Fog Crystal item, 2 Switch, 2 Air Balloon, 2 Communication, which I believe is the only card in this list that is rotating out, as well as the... Sorry, I didn't really see the Marsh Out and Mew down there, but very rotation-friendly list is what I'm trying to say. We have the new item, the Camping Gear, that lets you search your deck for a card and then your turn ends. We have a Clara. which is really good because in the late game, maybe your Gardevoirs are all knocked out, or you have some CALYREX in the bin that you need to retrieve, and Clara can just pull back Psychic Energy and Pokemon. Really good. 2 Boss's Orders, 3 Rare Candy because we only play a 3-3 line of our Stage 2. 4 Quick Balls, so max consistency really. 4 Caitlyn, interestingly enough. I'm not sure why Caitlyn and not just Research or Marnie, but this person probably wanted to try out something new, and I don't blame them. A new draw supporter that can potentially be viable is often worth testing out. So that'll do it for that list. This one is we'll see this one again later on in the video, but this one's like a Shadow Rider Mewtwo box, and it plays 1 Mewtwo, 1 Gengar Mimikyu, 1 Trevnor for that versatility, 2 Dedenne for the explosive impact on the first few turns, 1 Zapdos, which is a key feature in dealing with Eternatus. We do also see a Marshadow to deal with that annoying Path to the Peak Stadium, and the energy as well is built so you can attack with Galarian Zapdos at least twice, hopefully. It also plays 2 Reset Stamp, which is worth noting because you are playing tag teams, and honestly, Gengar Mimikyu only having 240 HP means the opponent will most likely be able to take a knockout on that guy at very least, or one of your Shadow Riders at some point. It's nice to have a Reset Stamp, and you can find it easily as well, thanks to the Hellgate ability. So this is a very similar list we see here, but this one is playing a slightly thinner count of Shadow Rider, only a 3-3 line, and it is going for a more heavier Mewtwo package of 2 Mewtwo, I should say. This one is also playing a Cresselia and a Marshadow, which is interesting, and a Crobat to add a bit more versatility rather than just a Dedenne. 2 Dedenne, I should say. So this is a tag call based engine. Tag call, not usually consistent enough in this day and age, especially in a stage 1 kind of aggro deck as this. But how this works and how this pays off is the fact that Shadow Rider's ability is letting you draw 2 cards as well as accelerating energy. So you can find more pieces through the ability and through the supporters. The Shadow Rider list, you'll see a lot of this like this if you go and have a look around. I think this particular kind of variant has the potential to be really strong in the format, if not the Mewtwo one that I've just shown. So I think both of these will be just really strong in the format. So CALYREX, this one obviously a 4-4 line, 2 Marshadow, 1 Chaotic Swell, 1 Power Plant. You can't really afford to lose to Path to the Peak, so this deck's just like, well, I might be slightly more inconsistent, but at least I have a direct answer to that. It is also playing 1 Bucephalon, interestingly enough. I think that's because you can accelerate energy quite easily with Shadow Rider. It's also playing 2 Zapdos and 3 Aurora Energy, so no taking any chances, very safe list. 1 Dedenne and 2 Gengar Mimikyu. I really like Gengar Mimikyu as an attacker, and with 2 Psychic Energy obviously means you can power it up quite easily. And also people are usually pretty lazy and don't play around Gengar Mimikyu as much as they should do, really. So that is definitely worth noting. 4 Fog Crystal, we expect to see that really. 1 Energy Retrieval and 1 Reset Stamp. I thought the Energy Retrieval was a bit inspired because it is something more interesting, especially when you consider in the late game, okay, I have 3 or 4 CALYREX in play, no more energy retrieval, some more, get them in play, draw 4 cards. It's just insane. You can see why why so many people want to try this out when it's been released, because the potential is obviously huge. So going into the Ice Rider now, this list is playing Cincino, so a slightly more budget-friendly kind of variant of the Ice Rider and Shadow Rider, I guess. This one has a distinct advantage in that it does not have an ability, so it can get away with playing the Path to the Peak Stadium. So Path to the Peak Stadium, great card, blocking off Crobats, Dedennes, and you do play 1 Dedenne, funnily enough, but you are mainly focusing on the 3-3 Cincino line to see more cards. This list, I'm pretty sure, is what I established in a pre-recording that failed, is that there are multiple Melanie behind the Marnie, and that's why there's 3 blocked out there, but the 2 Marnie are visible, so that's my logical conclusion. I can't see you playing any less than 3 or 4 Melanie in this list, so if you're wondering what they were, that was it. This one, I don't know what it is about Inteleon, but Japan seems to love Inteleon, no matter what they're building, whether it's Urshifu, whether it's Ice Rider, whether it's flipping Urshifu Single Strike, probably. They love Inteleon. So this one is slightly thinner line of 4-3, but then it does play the thicker Inteleon line of 3-3, 2-3. So 3, 3, 2, 1, I should say, sorry. So Shady Dealings in Teleon, really strong, allowing you to search for 2 cards when it evolves up, 2 trainer cards. So you can find cards like Great Catcher, you can find cards like Reset Stamp when you need them, which is important in late game. You can also find Path to the Peak, and you can find Melanie. So you can find Bucket, Melanie, boom, off you're rolling. So Drizzly, great card if you can get the Sobble up, which is easy enough because we do seem to play Communication, we play Level Ball, play Quick Ball. And then, of course, the one Drizzly, the one Inteleon, sorry, with the rapid shooting ability, allowing you to put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Doesn't sound like a lot, 20 damage in this day and age. Sounds terrible, until you realize that it does help out a lot with the math. And then 250 becomes 270. Wow, that's a 1 KO on a Mewtwo and tag team, so makes a lot of sense. And of course, again, the 3 Path to the Peak. You'll see, this is why I think Ice Rider is like a lot better than people give it credit for, because it has that chance to run Path to the Peak. Shadow Rider, you have to play a heavy line of the Shadow Rider a lot. You have to play a lot of Psychic Energy naturally. But these decks, they have more room for tech options, and your main attacker is the Rider itself. So you can get away with putting in stadiums, putting in stuff like Weakness Guard Energy in the bottom right corner there to deal with Zacians, you know. I think this could be a really strong deck. Maybe not tier 1, but certainly tier 2. And then this one was another list. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, but I wanted to point out that this list is playing a Frostlass line. And I think Frostlass is a really cool addition, just because it's letting you have an extra way of accelerating water energies. And of course, if you evolve to Drizzly, you can find Communication or Level Ball, you can find Frostlass through that, and then you can evolve up, you can start attaching water energy. And Melanie has natural synergy with Ice Rider because, of course, you are discarding energy to do the big 250 damage or the 130. So really easy to use. As well as the Inteleon line does let you find Scoop Up Nets, which will allow you to reuse Frostlass, of course, and also find Reset Stamps, which is obviously great, and Path to the Peak. So really solid. I think this was the last list, and I'm really not so sure about this list in particular, partly because it's playing 3 Cryogonal. Now, I knew someone who once said that Cryogonal was actually secretly busted in Lapras, but no one was using it. I don't know if he was right about that. I don't know about this player here, but they think the 3 Cryogonal from Team Up, so soon to be rotating, was a good pick. And for a single energy, it does 10 damage, and then your opponent cannot play any item cards during their next turn. So, interesting attack for sure. I'm not sure why it's in here, but interesting. I do think it is worth noting, however, that this list is playing 4 Melanie as well for Juniper's last research. It also is playing 2 Rapid Strike of the Inteleon, the one that puts the 2 damage counters, and I'm pretty sure the other one did as well. So yeah, this one has gone back to the 2 damage counters as well. So very interesting. 3/3 Ice Riders, so not even the 4/4. I think out of all the lists, this one is my favorite. I know that's a contradicting point to what I said about 30 seconds ago, but I do really like this list as well. I think it's cool. It's got a lot going on. Maybe I would cut a Cryogonal for something else, but for sure an interesting list. So huge thanks for watching. Let me know down below which is your favorite rider, and do you have any other ideas for a deck with them in? It's been Ember Power. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I'll see you all next time.